everybody. Keith here. Hoping everybody's having a good day, enjoying life, living life, loving life. I want to remind everybody, hit that like, share, and subscribe button. There's a PayPal link down there for anybody that wants to share some love. Always appreciated. And the StreamYard link is there for anybody that wants to join the panel. And we're going to go over some material today that I've been doing for 8 years. And we're just going to review what I've got on YouTube, show you what I've been doing, where I'm at today compared to then. And I'll tell you, I started out in that case 8 years ago, rather belligerent and combatant, and told them all to fuck off, called them all kinds of communist bastards and fingering them and everything, all through court and everything. And afterwards, I had this idea that I was going to sue them, and I was going to show people that there's a way to do this. And I've since, through my research, found out that that's not the way you do things. So back when I first started out, the claims and documents and stuff I was putting out, though they have certain elements to them that are true, it was more or less a thing of throwing things at the wall and hoping something would stick. And I urge people not to do that. I did have a steadfastness that I was going to research. I wasn't going to stop. I'd spent 50 years of my life being educated in things that were all wrong. I figure it's probably going to take the rest of my life to sort it all back out again. So I'm not going to stop. And that's the main point. So if I'm going to be, if I'm going to be in this game, long game, then I've got to be prepared for it. So along my research, my ideas changed, and my ideal on what I'm doing here is more so sticking to the research, studying to shew myself worthy and approved. And that's it. I don't need to push anything in relations to the aspects of my subjective views other than to help open other people's eyes so they can see the same kind of things I'm seeing and hopefully help themselves. And we've got John here. How you doing today, John?
Hey, what's up, my friend?
Not much. Good, good. Just going to go over some of the material. I know a lot of the subscribers, and I've got to mention we're almost hitting 3,300 subscribers. I appreciate it. God bless everybody. And of course, like I mentioned, we've got over 1,000 videos now. So we're just going to screen through them, show you some of them. How I started out was on Facebook, not on YouTube. So most of the ones that I've got on the main portion of what I started out with is from Facebook. And then about a year and 4 months ago or so, I started doing live streams here on StreamYard through YouTube. So we're just going to go through that material. And like I was telling them, the beginning of my journey started out a lot different than my perspective today. And you know, I used to be belligerent and pretty angry, as people can still see. I still have that passion in me that I freely express in that anger sense, because I hope people will get the concept that this isn't something we can lay down on. Our forefathers have been laying down on it way too much. You have a republic if you can keep it. They lost it like that. And we've been fighting for it, a semblance of that same republic for a long time. And again, that comes to the polity part. So what I'm looking at in my research, like I said, it's my ideals have changed. And mine is more setting things straight in the eyes of other people that have been indoctrinated just like myself. And this is because I've done that internal introspective viewing of myself and my past and my thing. It's that thing about the man in the mirror. See, it doesn't matter what anybody else says about me. At the end of the day, what is it I think about me? Do I have that self-esteem to know that I'm a good man? Or do I have this low self-esteem that's subjected to everybody else's ignorance and insults? And that's the part that really upset me, was when my mom looked at me and said, Keith, the police are your authority. And that was so insulting. And it was because, again, after all those foster homes and telling all those people, fuck you, you ain't my daddy, these people somehow got their grips on me so tight that I thought they honestly believed in God. But somehow, somewhere along the line, I think their perception is a little screwed up as to how that a chain of authority goes, and that no man has authority over another man, period.
Well, Keith, the more you know yourself and the more grounded you are, the better you are.
Absolutely, and that's one of the things I urge people. It's more important to be able to throw off other people's criticisms and have that your own criticism first. And that's the way you throw it off. Because if you've already criticized yourself in whatever perspective they're trying to sling at you, then what is it they're slinging at you but their own ineptness, their own inability to accept truth for what it is? And that's truly what we're talking about. So let's get into it. We see here, this is my El Perro page, and this is my main channel. And the very first one I have is that sheep video, the 27-second sheep video. And we'll go ahead and play this. Come on. Did I lose signal somewhere?
Oh, good. There you go.
We don't want it. How do you want it? Where's your daddy?
This is literally what I hear all day long. Who's your daddy? United States citizen, resident.
What about your mouth?
So, and what happened here? Oh, now we got to go back through the whole thing. Well, let's just see what happens here. Because in the meantime, like I said, over 1,000 videos, and it's about a lot of different topics, mostly doing with truth, no matter what the topic. So, like in the cancer thing that I'm dealing with now, everything I'm putting forth, as far as I know, is absolute truth because it's my firsthand experience. And it doesn't matter what anybody else's opinion is, because I'm giving you firsthand experience, which is a record of my observances. This is the First Amendment, freedom of expression, the right to express yourself. So let's do it this way now. The next one I have, you see at the beginning of my videos, is the open your eyes. And this is what I'm talking about. I hear sheep, and I want you to open your eyes. So let's take a look at it. Because this was from my trip out in New Hampshire after my court case there 8 years ago.
Yeah, that's near me.
Say what?
That's near me.
Oh, yeah? This is White Mountains, New Hampshire.
Yeah.
Dover. So I went out there to find that peace of mind. When I got out there, just shortly after I got out there, I got word that my brother died. So it didn't start off the way I wanted it to, but it gave me my own insight as to where my place was in the world. So in my journeys, I traveled up to this place called Frankenstein's Cliff, and this isn't where it was at. I didn't post the video from that one. But this one here is a different place. But when I got to the top of Frankenstein's Cliff and I looked out over the world and I saw all the other mountains around me and I realized how high I was on top of this world. There was just an overwhelming of sightfulness. It was like a question that said, wow, how far and how much can you really see in this world? And in my perspective, growing up in the Mississippi Valley, I couldn't see that far. And so when I realized these two very different places in Earth, even at the bottom of the valley, just like it was at the top of that mountain, it's all so beautiful. And it's all to the glory of the Most High. Can you hear that? That's just the wind. Whoops. Let's start that over. I missed it. I'm screwing up still. And Conway, New Hampshire, that's just north of Dover, New Hampshire. I traveled for 7 months, spending every night in a tent. Beautiful, beautiful area. So I got to click out and come right back in, guys. I lost my video again. I'll be right back.
Yep, fresh New England air.
Okay, there we go. And let me pull my screen back up. Okay. So, once we hear what we hear and see what we see, what is it we do? This is one of the first things that I realized in my journey was that there was something seriously wrong with what I was doing in my life, And all of them related to having to sign a document somewhere along the way. This is a world of contract, and every last one of those documents I signed was in contract form, but expressed a trust. I didn't realize this at the time, but I knew it had to do with that signature. And I'd been a contractor for a long time. I'd done my own sales and marketing, so I'd signed a lot of them contracts, knowing they were contracts and how they work, with the exception of that signature. And this is one of the things, working with these people, like I said, when I first got out of prison, back before I did any of this, I started my sales and marketing office. And I did that for 10 years. And I was doing contracts with all kinds of people in the community, the police, the sheriff, the mayor, everybody in the community, bankers, lawyers, all of them, having lunches with them and everything, deciding what we were going to do with this project or that project, and how I was going to advertise it, and this and that, and how much was going to go back to the community. And by the way, before we go any further, just so you understand, folks, that's how you truly pay taxes. Okay, if you're a contractor and you're working with these community people, instead of sending it off to a third party like IRS and doing it through them and paying them to do it and having them do their figuring based on their opinions on what you were doing, you're just straightforward with what you're doing and you put it right in your contract. Okay. For instance, we had a contract with Tina Turner to do a dinner auction. And so we sold seats at a restaurant to have dinner with Tina Turner. Afterwards, we went over to the ballroom and had an auction. And she brought personal items that she would auction off herself. So it was a great gig and everything. But being a community gig like that, what does a community get out of it besides what they pay for it? So there are other members in the community that would love to partake in situations like that, but they can't because they're people with disabilities. So we find nonprofit organizations, and we, in the contract, put a little clause in there that 10% goes to this organization, and we all agree which organization per event, which organization in the community is going to get a donation of 10%. The taxes are part of the contract; they're prepaid. Understand that. So let's get back to it. So we go through, and what denomination do you go by? This is the dollar thing. Okay, denomination. Every instrument, this relates to the nom de guerre. Okay? Nom de guerre, denom. So they've given you a nom de guerre. They gave you a name. What name did they give you? Well, who gave it to you? The Social Security Administration and the United States government, being a corporate entity, gave you a name, a legal name, to a business.
That's a title.
Correct. And that's a denomination. So the next thing is, one of the biggest things I realized about my path in this world, and I've always been spiritual. Most people would call me a Christian because that's what I actually was brought up in, and that's what I kind of remain to today. But I've done some research on both Judaism and Islam, as well as Buddhism, Hinduism, and many others. And one of my favorite books, in fact, is Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now, which is a different type. It's based on a different aspect altogether than just religion, but it's still a spiritual context. And so in that, I've learned that one of the things that the parables teach us is that Jesus was excellent at asking questions and then giving the answer within the question. So it comes down to, instead of professing how much you know, it's about what kind of questions can you ask? Can you get better at asking your questions rather than better than what you profess to know? Study to shew thyself worthy and approved. It's not a matter of having all that knowledge. It's a matter of studying the knowledge so you see how it correlates with you, because you are the knowledge. That's why it's so important to look inside yourself. Quit taking upon the objective views of everybody else and falling victim or patsy to this self-esteem thing as if though you're part of that popularity contest. Again, I'm just a messenger. It's not about me. It's about the message. And if it's the message that's coming across wrong and you want to show a new message, I think the best way is to draw out the fallacy of that other message by asking questions. The next one is, what's in your mind? By asking questions, the best way to get better at asking questions is by asking yourself first. Again, the point about being critical of yourself first. Then I went into bastard, bar, and what did you really ask, part 2. We've all been through this. What does bar mean? British Accredited Registry. And that's the accreditation that they talk about in the Lieber Code. Okay, it's a military communist regime led by bar attorneys. 80th session of Congress, 81st session of Congress. I'll have to look it up again. It's been a long time since I've stated it. But like I said in the beginning, I was calling these guys communist bastards. And that's because the 81st Congress investigated the Lawyers Guild and determined that all members of the Foreign Bar Association, by definition, were and are and still remain to this day communists, because they've never rebutted it. It still sits in the Congress. Greetings, Mitch. How you doing today?
Doing well, man. Thank you.
Good. Good to see you.
Likewise.
I'm just going over some of the videos and the fact that I actually started out on Facebook 8 years ago and then started doing things on YouTube about 5, maybe 4.5, 5 years ago. And these are just some of the first videos, and going through and explaining how I've changed over time and my perspective and everything. I used to be that belligerent combatant, calling these people communist bastards and everything. And I realized they're indoctrinated just as we are. And just like I keep saying about the record is what needs to be corrected, it's the history that needs to be interpreted properly as well. That's why it's important to learn this history stuff.
Yeah, that's exactly right, man. And I feel the same way. Several years ago, I was cussing at them every which way, and and I just had enough. I was fed up, and I used to be the one that thanked them for their service and whatnot, and just had it all backwards. And then eventually I got real angry with them, and then I realized if I want to get anywhere, make progress, I got to be able to effectively communicate. And I hold that true, like, with family members and friends and stuff. It's like, if we're fighting over this stupid shit, I failed to communicate,
Yep, absolutely. And it's not always just us that fails to communicate. And that's why we've got to recognize, hey, if they're failing to communicate, then it's more on me for my own safety and preservation to update, upgrade, and step up that communication as much as possible. By talking down to them is not going to help bring them up.
Right. Good point. I went back. You inspired me to go back and find a city council meeting I went to like 4 years ago. It was interesting to see how my perspective has changed. But, yeah.
Yeah, and that's that part about being self-critical. And that's why I see it. I have great faith in you, Mitch, because I see that self-criticism. And I used to think that you had some kind of mental issue. And again, I apologize for that. But You know, that was my own perspective, and that's why it's so important to be self-critical so that we can come together. Because I do love you, Mitch. Hold on.
Yeah, likewise. And hopefully you can still hear, but if not, I don't mind repeating. But yeah, you know, I basically feel the same. Granted, I've been diagnosed for decades now, you know, so it's like it's not just your opinion, at least at one point in time, that I got issues, but you know, really, it's
Well, we all do.
yeah, exactly. My biggest issue was I couldn't figure out how to interact with people around me, and that's my responsibility. And this is helping me a lot to
Yeah.
learn how to communicate effectively. You know.
And you know, people think it's bad that I hit a guy over the head with a shovel. But I'll tell you how disturbed I was as a little boy. 10 years old, I was lighting buildings on fire. 200 unit apartment buildings, things like that. I was disturbed. I understand that. But that's not who I am. That's what society was
Right.
building me and molding me into because it's insane itself. How do you expect a little kid to grow up in an insane world where he goes through 15 foster homes in a matter of 5 years, gets ripped out of his parents' arms, doesn't ever get to see his family again? You know, how do you? I
Yep.
I got to see my sister and my brother a couple times after that. I was actually adopted with my two younger sisters, but afterwards, you know, we never got to see my older sister except one more time, just shortly before she died of age 50 of a heart attack. My brother's doing life in prison for murder. I haven't seen him since I was 12 years old. Um, my mom and dad, I saw my dad. He never wanted to communicate with me. I found that out after I met him after as an adult and introduced myself with my girlfriend, my child, and he never contacted us again. You know, my mom, we found her, and she threatened to call the police on us. How fucking insane does society have to be before they accept their own insanity? I'm willing to accept mine. I'm willing to accept the insane things that I've done and change my ways. How come they don't want to? See, this is what disturbs me.
It was lack of love, Keith, and stress. It's all it was in your childhood. It wasn't your fault.
Yeah, and that's why I urge people. You know, when we're dealing with these people in the society themselves that are filling these positions of public officials and stuff, we have to give them the same scope. Now, granted, a lot of them weren't brought up the same way, but you never know. You never know. That mayor down here that I'm talking about and talking with and getting along with and showing respect and giving him kudos and letting him know I like how he's doing things, except that he's got certain people under him. I don't know if he came from the same type of background. And if he did, then praise motherfucking Jesus. You know, whatever it is, that higher source that showed him how to be a better man. Because I don't see it in a lot of people that strive to be that better man. In our conversations, knowing how tight those spiritual contacts are, that's one of the first things I base people on when I meet them. He's got it. I can see he self-criticizes himself. I see he goes through that. And he asks me very good questions that I'm not used to other people asking me, but I'm certainly qualified to answer. I don't sit there and stutter. I come right out with it and let him know because it's in my heart. It's already. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to. There isn't that disconnection or that confusion or anything. I've been thinking about this stuff for a long time, people. And so the next one, like I said, was bastard. And that's the first primary element. You know, it doesn't matter that all that foster care and all that abuse in my first by my biological dad and stuff, and none of that stuff matters. What matters is the fact that the family gets destroyed, and every last one of us ends up being considered a bastard. And that's because everybody falls to this national patriotism. There's but one Father which art in heaven. And if you can't keep your houses in order, and you bow down to a national house before God, that's exactly what they're doing, folks. They're taking an oath to the Constitution, to be loyal to the Constitution. That gives up their loyalty to God. You can't serve two masters. If you're pledging loyalty to the Constitution and what it says, then maybe you forgot what's written in your heart. Maybe you never learned what's written in your heart. Maybe you were brought up by heathens and they taught you to be a heathen and that there was no other way to live. I don't know. All I know is what's written in my heart supersedes anything written out there by anybody else. I'm a child of God. I'm not a bastard. Neither are you. And then I went on and I started doing these short little videos about certain words: capable, responsible, fraud, freedom. How are you going to leave your mark is another one about the signature. Social Security and Treasury offset program. If you want to know whether somebody's holding a debt over your head, call up the Treasury offset program and ask them. And they'll ask you for your name and your Social Security number. And they'll come back and they'll tell you no. How do I know this? UCC 9-307, location of debtor. And they name the United States as the debtor. And it's located in Washington, D.C. If anybody else is posing that you owe a debt and that you owe it to them, it's only because they are organized under the laws of the United States. And they're the ones with the contract with the United States for that. You're a third party, and they're taking advantage of you. Only because you've never been taught, but once you learn this stuff, you'll know how to throw it off. All these court cases down here posing that I owe a debt to them. UCC 11 says I don't owe a debt either. Treasury offset says I don't owe. The state and the federal government say I don't owe a debt, yet the county says I do. How does that work? So the next one, let's see. Here we go. Oops, I did it wrong, but that's okay. We'll watch this one. Enjoy this one, folks.
I like the one with the gray knit hat and the goatee where you lit two up.
What are we doing here? Somebody trying to play with my signal. Okay, this is about the process. Like I said with bastard, we're not born bastards. We're born of our mother's waters. We're discharged of our mother's waters as a man. And instead of that being recorded, they record the entrance of a man into jurisdiction. That state's vital statistics jurisdiction is the entrance of a man into the public record. That man was discharged of mother's waters. And they are allowed to do that, no problem. Because if they're truly working for national security, domestic tranquility, and general welfare, then they should provide a burial trust for anybody that dies on the land and doesn't have anybody to bury them. That makes reasonable logic and sense. But the process that we're supposed to go through is spiritual, and that's the part that's cut off. We're cut off from our spirituality. And we're not raised as those spiritual beings. We're raised in Christianity, in a religion that has multiple hundreds of different sects and Bibles and views and opinions based on those different Bibles that they follow, the different scriptures, the New Bible, the King James Version Bible, the Septuagint, all of them, every last one of them. What is in your heart is most likely going to be more true than anything you've ever read or heard.
Hey, everybody. Keith here. And I wanted to talk to everybody tonight about a little bit of natural process, the natural procedure in life. What comes first? The natural will to survive, to life, liberty, and property. What is that life, liberty, and property? Where does it extend from? Who's defining it? I'll tell you what. God said, ask and ye shall receive, and he provides plenty freely. So gather and be prosperous and abundant. And so I was able to go be a little abundant. And I'm going to show everybody a part of a natural process. It doesn't require any kind of licensing or anything, because it's the process that comes first. Before
your life and how you sustain it is no one else's business. They have no right to say that your viability on this earth is assessed by them in any manner whatsoever.
any political body, financial body, religion body, educational body, I don't care who it is. My natural process says that I'm supposed to go out and do this for myself, and not to charge an expense for somebody else to do it for them, or to be charged an expense, just have somebody else provide it.
Give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. Teach him to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. But again, that principle is that he can now turn around and teach others. Please pay attention.
We're supposed to freely given, and we freely give. It's the concept of sharing. So the process starts out naturally. Once we catch it, we've got to process it. What's the process? The first part of my process is you cut right behind the gills, underneath that gill plate. Then you're sure to get them all the way up into the center of the bone there. Now we're going to take our blade, we're going to hold his head up like this, we're going to go into the center of the bone here, right along this spine. And there's bones in there. You can feel as that blade runs across there, and you just guide that blade across them bones. And by this time, you've gone down that set of spiny spikes to the spine itself. Up on the top part, you're going to have a rib cage, and the bottom part's going to have nothing but spine sticking out the bottom. So up here at the top, we want to roll this meat up so we can cut up along that spine, or up along that rib cage. And I wish I could show you this better, but I don't have a cameraman yet.
Still haven't got one.
Okay, and as we get up there, this is the short part of the neck here, and that's going to go right to the skin on the bottom side. And that's all. You don't want to cut through the skin. We're going to leave this all in one piece when we're done. And so we lay him open just like that. One big chunk of meat. Now he's all one big chunk of meat on this hide, and we're just going to fillet him off this hide. Now I'm not using any protective gear, so I got to be real careful.
So this fish is going to come out in 3 pieces. I'm going to have 2 fillets and the rest of the fish all still in 1 piece. You don't have to mess with the guts or anything. Everybody shows you to gut it and take the gut. That's just a big mess you don't have to worry about. Then what you have left, if you do gardening, you take it out and throw it in the compost.
Okay, now once we got our nice little score line all the way along the back, we're not going to cut it off of the back. We're just going to skewer it right through and cut right along that line. Okay, now that we've got that cut, that's still attached to the tail. Now we can lay our meat out like this.
That was a big fish. "39-inch muskie."
And there we have our slab of meat. Clean her up, cut her down, fry it, bake it, smoke it, grill it, and fit it. So now, we see we've got the 1/2 done, and when we get done, we'll have 1 piece left to throw in the garbage because everything's attached. Never had to worry about the guts inside. Just lay it right out. I'm not going to make you guys watch anymore, but I just wanted you to understand. I think you're following the wrong process from the start. Get back down to the natural process and understand the inherent and instinctual knowledge of what's rightfully yours, instead of these administrative procedures, these lawful procedures, legal procedures, summary procedures, educational procedures, training procedures, regulatory procedures.
So you kind of get my point there, I hope. It's kind of disturbing, like I said, to be indoctrinated into a system 50 years of age before you realize there's something terribly wrong, and that what is terribly wrong is that everybody, including the ones you believed in most of your life as knowing what was natural, you know, the ones that taught me about gardening and taking care of my life and stuff in that aspect, as well as supposedly that God was the creator and Jesus was my savior, and somehow they misplaced that authority somewhere along those years. It's amazing. So let's get on to it. Motor vehicle certification is false. This is something I put out 4 years ago. I'm not going to replay this one. But basically, this is the same message I've been putting out in regards to the birth certificate. It's false. It's not valid yet. In its false element, it's because it's imperfect. It's known as an imperfect usufruct through an imperfect title. You're the only one that can perfect it if it was valid. And so the only thing you can do is make it the best you can, and that is recognizable in the eyes of the law. That doesn't mean you put it up for sale like they'd like you to, because then it's saying that it is perfect, or the warrant is specific, and you really shouldn't be doing that shit. He's a respecter of no persons, and the root of love, or the root of evil, is the love of money. Why do you need to love money if you can love the source of credit? See, again, you can't serve 2 masters. The other one, everything like I said about these contracts, this is when I realized in this realm of trying to correct these records that even though I'd been this guy that was contracting with all these public officials and everything, doing all these events for a number of years, after I did my research, I found out how I'd been being screwed in those contracts as well by not being able to qualify that signature for the underlying investments that were going on the bonds. Greetings, gentlemen. We've got Hanko Flamio and Mr. Brian. Who?
Sean looks like.
Greetings, guys. You'll have to unmute.
Yep.
Brian Sean, greetings. Thank you so much.
Greetings, Brian. Absolutely, anytime. How long you guys been on? Go ahead.
I just know what it's like finding out at 50, you know, it's like you're talking about, you know, being at a certain age and then just finding out, you know, life is really a completely different game that you're playing. And not only does most not want to play the version that is best played, which is the one, you know, that I find being dispelled now, and it's amazing. So for all the Madden craziness that has been, like, this has been the most amazing journey these past 7 years, as well as the hardest, you know, and
yeah. You have to humble yourself. You have to humble yourself, don't you?
And what is that, you know? And so to learn all of that, it's just been a wonderful thing. I mean, I never thought I could. You know, I don't like brand new anyway of anything, but I never really. When I look around and I see other people acting brand new, I know what they're doing. They are acting brand new, but this kind of brand new that comes about myself on a daily basis is truly, it's not so brand new as it is a settled knowing, and I love that. That's just something that I love, and I want to thank you, Keith, for moving that in so many ways for myself, and so thank you for that, and for
all glory goes to him. All glory goes to him.
Absolutely, absolutely. But again, if you don't know how to hook a worm on a fishing pole, you know, if somebody doesn't teach you that, you're screwed.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yes.
Absolutely. Thank you. Okay, so let's keep going here. The next thing I wanted to mention, the voice of truth. Let me pull this up, and hopefully, let me see here. Oops. Okay, this is a song I'd like everybody to listen to someday. And I'm not going to play the whole thing. I'm going to play a little skitted of it here. Hopefully they won't do anything to us. We've got the thing scrolling across the screen. We're just educating people about a channel I'd like them to go check out. This is Casting Crowns, Voice of Truth. This is a very spiritual song for me because this is what leads me in my journey. I'll not bow down to anybody, and the voice of truth will stand by itself.
We don't have anything on our end, Wiz.
Uh-oh. Let me share the screen then.
Whoops.
There we go.
Okay. This is all it takes.
What I would do to have The kind of faith it takes to climb out of this boat of men.
All you got to do, folks, have faith that you can climb out of that boat and walk on water. Because all it takes is that faith, that truth will stand on its own. Your body is supposed to be a sacrifice. And if you're sure in your heart, I guarantee you, you'll be able to walk on that water. Faith is the greatest thing you can have. And that faith in yourself is the highest. Ye are gods. You were created in an image and likeness. You don't need the self-esteem that other people are trying to indoctrinate you in through some kind of goddamned popularity contest. Greetings, Russ. How you doing today?
Good. Greetings, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well.
So anyway, go check them out. Casting Crowns, Voice of Truth. All you got to do is climb out that boat. Climb out, folks. So let's go with the next one. Private Member Association. This is important, folks. I'm going to show you my website here. Share tab. Okay, this is my website. Developed it almost 4 years ago. And first thing off, it says, hiring an attorney proves one is incompetent. Ye already have counsel. Ask and ye shall receive. That's that faith. Ask the right counsel. That attorney is not the right counsel. You're putting your trust in another man. Scripture says not to do that. Okay? Protection of fair use. This is the UPU disclaimer and copyright. It's the first thing on my page here. And then when we go over here to the faith-based union, we click on that. And it says public notice. And notice, this is the header on every page. Hiring an attorney proves one is incompetent. Remember that. Public notice. Realize the real lies with your real eyes, folks. This is a diplomatic post worldwide of the Keith Orland Little FBU. Absolute now time security note. Living in the now. My own little code. Got a epoch number, and then universal public notice 1, version 1 of August of 2020. So it's going on 4 years in August. The Keith Orland Little FBU, Private Member Association, an expression of my living will. Public notice. Be it known evermore to all people and peoples that Keith Orland, Conrad E. Little, has founded a faith-based union of people that of the like kind to be known as Keith Orland Little FBU, a unincorporated association, for the purpose of behaving of what is prosperous and abundant, with pure equity in nature, with absolute right of use by, through, and for Keith Orland, Conrad E. Little, of any and all real or personal effects. All events of matters of this union remain as such without dissemination. Private is private. Anyone who wished to be of this natural union will be under the full armor of protection from dissemination of any details of this union by the whole union as one. As it is written, so shall it be. Reverently, Chaplain Keith, House of Jacob, in the surname of Israel. Trust prophecy. Our trust prophecy, spiritually and manually. We will constantly and firmly, in and with full faith, be careful to maintain good works of they who have believed in God's might, providence, in God's might, providence, grace, and credence. For these things are good and profitable unto men. Our redemption is of righteous favor, for this is the inheritance of the servants of the Lord, and their righteousness is of his. We sing our Father's spiritual words, sons of his inheritance of love in the material world, his wife. This is naturally inherent. We accept and hold the credence of his might, of the providence of his grace. All glory goes to him. We write these words are true and faithful in credence of his words. Hank's got my next move. Go ahead, Hank.
Yes. So this is an ONET profile test I took, I think, maybe a year or two ago. Let me check that timestamp. Yeah, according to the timestamp, I did this in June 2022.
Okay. Tell us what it's saying.
So pretty much it says I'm kind of balanced, and I was supposed to be doing this as part of a work training program that decides my next move, but that wasn't really funded. That fell through. So I actually tried to train myself, like I end up usually having to do. So I came to Panelverse for the past, let's say, 6 months or so, to learn how to communicate with people better outside of the normal corporate environment. But the problem is that the more I talk to people in general, the more disappointed I become because they're stuck in their loops. Um, they're deceptive. They make false promises, and it's just very annoying. So
Absolutely.
right now I actually do not think I'll be going into corporate management at all because they depend on people to get the job done, but I know that I can't really depend on people whatsoever. So
Yeah, it is disheartening, isn't it? What's
yes.
that? Do you think that's telling you have to be your own boss, Hank?
I'm not sure yet. I know I don't want to be a corporate manager because that's a secret job because I had to be dealing with everyone's drama just to get the job done, and that's
That's
not
what
my
I mean.
goal.
Why would you want to work for somebody else? Doesn't that tell you that there's something out there that you could do by yourself? Maybe even a small lawn care business. I don't know what part of the country you're in, but if you're down south, you can usually get involved in lawn care and irrigation tech, or in the north, you can get lawn care and then do your fall cleanup, your winter snow removal, your spring gardening and stuff. It is a seasonal thing, and it is something you can do by yourself. And I think that's a better way of being able to communicate with people in the area, because you're actually providing them a service, major service. And I found that those service things are much more personalized, and you get better interactions and reactions. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
that's an interesting proposition, but it's not. That's not necessarily what's telling me to need to go on my own because that's pretty risky business going on your own because if something happens to you, you're screwed. So
Yeah.
not
Well, and that's why I say you got to know contracts too.
yeah
You got to understand the contracts and trust. So yeah, I can see that as problematic for you at this point because you don't know about it so much. But
yeah I'm in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, southwestern Pennsylvania.
yeah. But yeah, anything that you could find, and it doesn't even have to be something out in society. I know a lot of people that do drawings and put their drawings up. You know, so you can still be your own boss in that aspect, still have communications, and they would actually be kind of long distance communications. But you never know; you might end up with people that are continuous buyers and stuff that really like your artwork and stuff, or whatever it is. So there are a lot of different things that a guy could do. So don't let that get you down either, brother.
Yeah, that I know I can do already. I have literally all the equipment and all the software.
Yeah, and that's one of the amazing things about this internet is we've got software today that can help you with those interests. Was somebody else wanting to say something? Okay, I thought I heard somebody piping up. So what's this chart telling us? Um, tell us? It says what's the top? I can't read it.
Let me slow it up a little more so I could still read it to you. So it has like how many dimensions? One, two, three, four, five, six. It has 6 dimensions and it's supposed to see what you have aptitude or interest in. So the dimensions are realistic, investigative, artistic, social, enterprising, and conventional. So I scored a 31 in both realistic and conventional, and also I scored 28 in both investigative and artistic, then a 16 in social and enterprising. So
they're
it's
saying
got,
you've got a low base on the social and enterprising, but you do good on the realistic, investigative, artistic, which says that you've got an open and observant mind. That's
yes,
absolute.
yeah, I'm pretty balanced.
Okay.
But I worry about destroying my own thing, because that's where social and enterprising, it was a good nose, it would make total sense. But since
Right.
I'm good in everything else, it doesn't necessarily make sense. But really depends on where I go.
Yeah. See, that's why. See, I took you as I take you as an outdoors kind of guy already, Hank. Despite the fact that we only see you on the metaverse here, it says right there, working with plants and animals. Is this hitting on the spot there? Were they correct that you like the real world materials like wood, tools, machinery, and outside work?
Affirmative. And right now I work logistics. It's in a warehouse, but a warehouse is just a giant basement. So it kind of feels like it's outside half the time anyways.
Yeah, absolutely. And you get to do you're figuring out problems and searching for facts. That would be logistics. Again,
Yes.
another
And
thing that
moving
fits
stuff
right in.
around, most importantly.
Yeah. All right. Well, good deal. Good deal. I think they I think they hit spot on myself as well.
Yep.
Not that I'm anybody special, but I tend to think I can read people pretty well. So
Yeah. I got much better at reading people. It's just what I read is kind of disgusting. And I don't know how to write to people that much. I could do little power games, but when it comes to writing to people, it's not easy to do.
yeah. All right. Well, let's take a look at the next one then. I've got, what is it here? That was that. What happened? What happened? There we go. I'm lagging today. Go ahead.
Okay, you got the next one queued up?
Yep. What's going on here?
Oh, do you want me to? Did you want to go to the next thing? Do you want to actually scroll down the share screen because I removed?
No, I'm talking about mine. About mine.
That's what I thought.
There we go. I got her. Okay. The next thing, concise English handbook, folks. In order to do this stuff, I urge everybody to unlearn what they've learned and relearn the concise English, because that's what they're using against you. In the public education system, when I was growing up, they didn't teach us concise English. We didn't have civics in school. We had social studies, and they touched very slightly on civics, but they didn't have an actual civics course, and we didn't have to have a civics test like the immigrants do. Immigrants, when they come to America, the United States, quote, they have to take a civics test. They have to pass that civics test in order to become naturalized. And that's part of the problem with the public education system. They don't do the stuff that they require for people to be public officials. Yet that's the presumption, that one day you're going to grow up and you're going to be a public official. Ask the little boys and girls what they want to be when they grow up in school. Well, I want to be a fireman. I want to be a doctor. I want to be a policeman. I want to be a lawyer. I want to be a judge. I want to be a banker. Come on. Think about it. So it's very important to understand what they're saying, and the only way you're going to be able to do that is understand that English is a lingua franca, which means they can morph it and change it and everything. And in order for you to get your point across correctly in these contracts and trusts, it has to be concise. Let's see. Admiralty Maritime is the whole thing about the land jurisdiction being merged with contract or with sea jurisdiction, and that's the set where you have the admiral of the Navy is the one that resides on the land, and he is the one that assigns the captain to the vessel. And that's what's happening when you get birthed at the dock at the hospital. That's the admiral assigning a captain to a vessel. It's the same thing. Maritime implementation of a manual presence. Automobile manufacturer. Very clean. I'm not going to play it, but it's very plain and clear, folks. An automobile manufacturer produces automobiles and motor vehicles. They are two different classes, but the MCOs that they set out are all manufacturer certificate of origin, or MSO, manufacturer statement of origin, and on them they say motor vehicle. They don't distinguish automobiles from motor vehicles, which they should, but they don't. They call automobiles motor vehicles, and they are a certain class, meaning they have to weigh so many pounds, and they don't, but they classify them as motor vehicles on the MCO. That's a fraudulent conveyance. It's an erred conveyance at best, or at minimum. Then they send them to an automobile dealership, and you have an automobile salesman. IRS is a friend. Learn how to communicate with them.
Automobiles and motor vehicles. Does that distinction make a difference when it comes to repairing them at all?
No, even the automobile mechanics will call them motor vehicles, but they have a much better reference by the year and make. So that's what they call them. They generally don't call them automobiles or motor vehicles, because their work says, well, that's a 1978 Chevy Impala.
Yeah, because they need the exact make and model to repair the parts if they're doing a normal style repair. Right.
That would be the equivalent of asking what the difference is between the legal name and the given name. There's a big difference, you know. Same with the name and birth date is the same as the year and make of the automobile. And those are automobiles. The trucks, 10,000 pounds or more, that's a motor vehicle. Eminent domain, this is what they're using under community care, public safety, to do everything. Oops.
Good evening, everybody. Keith here. Hoping everybody's enjoying their day, living life, loving life, enjoying life. Wanted to hop on and make a real quick video. This is going to be probably one of the shortest ones I'll make. And because it's really simple, 2 words, eminent domain. This is one of those things that our government, or the government, your government, whoever it is, this fictional corporate private entity, claims to have eminent domain. And if you look at the etymology of the 2 words that I posted there, you will see that eminent speaks of words like high, revered, paramount, things like that. And then, of course, domain, we all know domain in its simplest form is dominion, Lord, Lord Master. And so I want people to really think about this in regards to themselves, and not just the land that the Bureau of Land Management and other fictional private corporate entities claim as theirs. Understand that no fictional entity can own, possess, or even claim in truth any such thing.
And this again goes to that dominion. Man was given dominion of the land, air, and water. Okay, the birds, the fishes, all of it. Not corporate entities. And when they pose eminent domain for their private gain, that is blasphemy against the very scriptures that they organize under the laws of the United States through that Constitution. This is why I say when they swear an oath to that Constitution, to give loyalty to that Constitution, they give up the loyalty to their heavenly Creator, and this is why they can go forth and then claim to condemn the land of its natural use, so that it then can be converted and paved and put parking lots and stuff on, so that they can use it for commerce, to tax the people. That's the only way they make a profit, is by taxing the people, by convincing them they need commerce. And by convincing the people that they need commerce, they then condemn the land so people can congregate in those commercial societies. Well, the problem with that is, if there's a Congress or a commerce area, it would be a simple small area. This is why we have Main Street. Then why is everybody else building their abodes right next to it? Because it's convenient. Well, I urge you to quit doing that. That condensing of a population is a large part of what caused the problem. You want your fucking elbow room? Go out and get your elbow room.
And when we speak about eminent domain in my video here this evening, I want everybody to think about, first, we're going to go backwards in a timeline. The birth certificate is dependent upon the construction of a certificate of live birth, which is dependent upon the construction of a original statement of live birth, which is dependent upon the abstract information obtained from the hospital statement of live birth, which is obtained from two informants. One is the mother and one is the doctor.
A lot of statements in there, huh?
Yeah. Keith, that was good detail 5 years ago that you gave.
Yeah, that's a lot of statements they got to have. They got to have a statement from each one that's transferring that property. There's a lot of people involved in that transfer there. And like I said, it starts out with the dock, the admiralty, the dock on land, the maritime jurisdiction, the special maritime jurisdiction that extends inland from the coastal lines. That's what they're doing. It's an admiralty assignment of a captain of a vessel. Special maritime jurisdiction, obligation or other security of the United States for a United States vessel. Pure and simple.
And that's just a sheet of information. It is not a contract. It is merely a sheet of information that is used as abstract information to create a certificated instrument from those documents.
In recent weeks, you said it was a service contract, but you don't mean that literally, right?
No, the mom signed a service contract for a spell of illness. That was the registration. In that, they created all these statements. Those aren't contracts. They can't be.
Right.
Has no value in eminent domain at all. Period. I want everybody to think real hard. In beginning was Word.
And so they pose a value and give it credit. Okay, do you guys understand that? They posed a value. This is an impost.
Yeah, like you would do on eBay or something when you
Correct.
miss something. Yeah.
They posed a value, and that's giving it credit. That's all they're doing. The credit is there, folks.
And when you transliterate that word down into paper, you have reduced it to a lesser truth, period. You yourselves, excuse me, not you, but man has, as Lord Master, dominion as stewards of his house, wards of his house, have eminent domain. That is Genesis 1, Genesis 1, verses 26 through 28, wherein man is given dominion of the land. Starts with an L. A starts air. Water starts with a W. L-A-W, law. Law is the eminent domain of all of man as Lord Masters as house wards of his house. Period. Do not mistake it anymore. Do not let these corrupt public officials, private corporate entities convey it and lie.
Yes, just like when they condemned the land. What they did when they tried to name God and gave him that name, God, and said that it was a him. They lessened the presence of God as if though God could be defined such as a man. Now, while man was made in his image and likeness, it is distinctly different because it encompasses everything outside of man. We live in this world, but not of this world. So God cannot be in this world unless we recognize what God truly is, and that is much more than us. And that means I am not a mere God. God is everything with us. That's what that thing about the ye are gods, because we came from God. So it's just like saying my children that come from me would be littles, because my last name is Little. It'd be the same thing. That's why it's so important to understand what that surname is all about. God doesn't have a surname, does he? God doesn't even have a first name, does he? Who knows the name of God? Why are we going by these names instead of an image and likeness?
But we
Lie to you
abandoned our
anymore.
property, Keith, and that's why they condemn it.
Yeah.
Maybe they're justified in one little way.
Well, no, it's still not justification, because they still, again, if they take an oath under God, then they recognize the presence of God. So therefore, if they're condemning the land in order to use it for commerce, they know damn well what they're doing. These are people that take an oath and recognize this so-called source God. And they're doing exactly against what that source God says by condemning the land. They can't purchase it. What makes them think they can condemn it?
Because we abandon it, at least in their eyes.
But if God is ever present, are they not afraid of God? Absolutely not, because they're condemning his land. They're heathens.
Yeah, to me, what they're doing is
Right.
they're etching out the existence of God so that they can play God, and
Yep.
you know that's their ideal situation. But I think what's important to recognize, and maybe I'm just stating the obvious, but what you're describing in this video is, a perfect example of an express trust. God granted dominion to
Absolutely.
man.
Absolutely. And we are stewards. We are the ones that are supposed to take care of it. That means we are trustees. And when we recognize our trustee position in that venue, it is superior to every other grantor, grantee, trustor, trustee, benefactor, beneficiary in their fictional legal system. There is no greater grant. And when we accept that as a duty, it abolishes all those other legal duties. Again, it's a redemption. I'm not here to accuse you. I'm here to tell you what you're doing wrong, and I hope to help you fix your ways. If you can't, then judgment day will come, and I'm not your judge.
Learn to realize the real lies with your real eyes. Period. And remember, people, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be doing this. God bless you. Have a great night. Bye-bye.
So let's take a look at eminent. Eminent as an adjective says standing or rising above other places. And that's what I felt when I reached the peak of that Frankenstein's cliff. I felt eminent. That's the best way I can explain it. Exceeding other things in quality or degree. This is a fortiori, a greater truth. Exceeding the facts in the record with a greater truth. From Old French, eminent, prominent, from 13th century, or directly from Latin, eminentum, nominative eminens, standing out, projecting, prominent, high, figuratively distinguished or distinctive. Like I said, it's distinctively different. Law and legal. They are distinctively different. Stand out, project, be prominent, be conspicuous. From assimilated form of X, out, menere, which related to mons, hill, out of the hill. Remember, I've spoken about the term mountain before as well. Mountain, mons, hill, cane, hold. It's a hold in the hill. It's a cave. That's where man came from, supposedly. Caveman. That's why they call it caveman. Distinguished in character or attainments. Preeminence. Surpassing eminence. Superiority. Distinction. Precedence. A place of rank or distinction. A place of rank or distinction. So we live in this world but are not of this world. We are citizens of heaven. And we transcend it here. Or we are to transcend here, excuse me. We descended here. Present participle of premenere, transcend, excel. Literally project forward, rise above. Before. What came before I came here? Well, I am an image and likeness.
Hey, Wizard, I'm going to excuse myself. I've been up since 2 a.m., so I'm going to need a nap time.
No problem. Appreciate you coming up. Always appreciate your support, brother. Love you, and you be blessed.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good day, bro. So, sublime. Elevated manner. I felt sublime. Uplifted. High. Born aloft. Born aloft. I was born in this world, but before I was born in this world, I was born aloft. Before I was formed in the belly, he knew me. Divination. Act of foretelling by supernatural or magical means the future, or discovering what is hidden or obscure. Again, before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee. That was the act of foretelling, that before I came forth from the womb, he sanctified me and ordained me to be a prophet, a foreteller unto the nations.
Is that where we get dividend from?
Might be. It's divided. Has to do with sublime, which is elevated manner, excellence, distinguished. And so with that, folks, we come to the end here. I appreciate everybody. You guys got anything that you want to say on the way out? I might do a review of some more of those videos, but just to put an intro out there of what I do, what I've been doing for the last 8 years. again, like I said, when I first started out, I was putting out a lot of material that I was going to go after the government and sue them and this and that. And I put out the fee schedule and went through all the criminal codes. 18 U.S. code is an amazing set of codes, and you can learn what their job duty is by those codes, as well as various others like I showed yesterday. Basic obligation of public service. So
18 U.S.C. and 26 U.S.C. Those are your favorites, right, Keith?
Yep.
Yeah, so this might be a little out there, but I figure, with the eminent domain, it's contradictory to what they've already put out as like an authoritative source, because I figured, those scriptures came from the, what was recognized as the authority. And so, they've already recognized at some point that, that eminent domain is wrong and contradictory to what the natural law of we're supposed to recognize.
Yeah, and that's at the international level, guys. That's the law of nations, otherwise known as the principles of the laws of nature. So, yeah, very well.
Many thanks, Wiz. I'll catch you on the next one, hopefully. Peace.
Absolutely. Thanks again, brother. God bless.
Yep. Let's go. Peace.
Yeah, I'm going to bounce out myself, Wiz. Always appreciate the time up here on your panel with you. And I agree with a lot of what you say, especially how we got to really settle ourselves down and come from a foundation of peace that's in our heart and souls already. And that has to be, I believe, the change that we all are wanting to see. Much love.
Yep, absolutely. And like I said, coming from that foundation of peace doesn't mean you have to remain peaceful. There are times where you have to let that anger rise and assert it and let these people know you're not going to keep putting up with their ignorance. Their job is on the line. You have to be able to let them know that.
Absolutely. You say you might go live later?
Yep, I'll be back again at 6.
All right.
I did it earlier today. Yep, I did it earlier today because I just felt a different time, and we'll see how it goes. And I just need to change up my schedule somewhere.
All right, brother. We'll see you then. Much love, everyone.
All right, yep. Be blessed.
We'll see you then. Yep.
What about you, John? Am I on spot? Am I off key or what?
Well, I thought it was 5 years ago you made that video. I didn't know it was 8. I guess you were on spot back then, too.
No, that was 5 years ago, but 8 years ago when I first started this, I was going after him. But then, like I said, a couple of years into it, I decided I had to change my course because I realized it wasn't doing me any good. And like Jack said, he said, I'm an angry old man. And when I'm an angry old man, my message won't get across very well. And he's right. So I'm still working on it.
It's just pretty laughable that you're angry and old. I don't think you're either. You're a truth teller. So it's just the appearance, right, of those things, but it's not actual. It's not reality.
Correct. All right. Well, with that, we are out. I thank you again, John. May God bless you, and we'll see you later. And you guys know me. I love you, but I don't give a rat's ass whether you love me back. That's say I don't care if you hate me. I don't care if you don't respect me. That's on you. So may God bless you, and have a good night. We'll see you later.